BRYAN MBEUMO to Manchester United. Here we go, the deal is done, and now the agreement has been completed between Man United and Brentford. After long negotiations, the two clubs have agreed on the fee, and so BRYAN MBEUMO is set to become a new Manchester United player. The agreement is in place, everything is okay between the clubs. Now player who already has the authorization for medical test and contract signing. MBEUMO, who's been waiting more than 1 month to sign for Manchester United, but was never tempted by other opportunities. Only United, and the deal is now done. BRYAN MBEUMO to Manchester United is here with you.
Fine young gentlemen are here alongside me to talk you through it. Dharmesh Sheth and Mark McAdam. Yeah, you two. You're the only two here. What a way to spend my Friday evening with you two guys. I'll tell you what, let's start with BRYAN MBEUMO, Dharmesh, because it feels like there's been a big breakthrough in the last few hours.
We should really file this one under saga, I think, the length of time that this one has taken. The entire transfer window, we have been talking about BRYAN MBEUMO's potential move from Brentford to Manchester United. Well, there has been a breakthrough, as you mentioned. Manchester United have agreed a deal with Brentford for BRYAN MBEUMO. The deal in total is worth £71 million. So the agreement is for a £65 million initial payment plus £6 million in add-ons. The fixed fee, that's the £65 million, will be paid in 4 instalments. What happens next? Well, MBEUMO is expected to take a medical in the coming days, may even be as soon as this weekend. And all being well, there's now growing optimism that everything could and should be sorted in time for MBEUMO to be part of the squad that flies out to the United States for the club's pre-season tour, and that is on Tuesdays when they fly out. So MBEUMO on course now to become Manchester United's third signing of the window after Matheus Cunha arrived from Wolves for £62.5 million, and of course Diego Leon, although that one was kind of agreed in January but finalised in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, you sense that could be a big signing for Man United. It'll get a lot of attention. But how about from a Brentford point of view? I've got a lot of Brentford fan friends, and they're saying to me, well, Thomas Frank's gone, and MBEUMO's about to go. What about Yoane Wissa? Surely we can't let him go as well.
Yeah, well, you'd imagine that off the back of losing someone like BRYAN MBEUMO, there would be a reluctance to sell any more players, particularly when they've already lost a number of key first-team players. However, whilst the stance from Brentford is Yoane Wissa is not for sale, when you're talking transfers, you always have to caveat it with, well, if someone puts this amount of money on the table, Brentford may find it difficult to resist. Now, we know that there is a lot of interest in Yoane Wissa. We know that Nottingham Forest failed with an attempted bid in January and earlier in this summer. We know that there is interest from Tottenham Hotspur and Newcastle United as well. But so far, Brentford have been able to resist any potential offers from these other football clubs. We know that he has 1 year plus a club option further year on his contract, which gives them a slight advantage in this situation. He's 28 years old, so he's getting to the latter stages of his career. And of course, it's one of those players that's been so influential. He's been so special under Thomas Frank whilst he's been at Brentford and developed into a really important figure for them. You can understand why Brentford say, we don't want to sell all of our star players. We know that that could be leaving us in a perilous position if we were to do that. So therefore, the price tag may have just gone up a little bit from what it was this time last week. Now that they're going to lose MBEUMO to Manchester United, Brentford will say, well, actually, it would have to be something rather special for us to accept a deal for Yoane Wissa. So therefore, no thanks, we need to keep you. The fact that they've got that club option year in his contract would suggest they may be able to sit down and say, look, we need you to stay now, but this time next year, if you get the opportunity to go to a bigger club and play Champions League football, we promise, gentleman's agreement, we won't stand in your way. One to keep an eye on, but very different stances there, not for sale. Let's see what gets put on the table. That might change the dynamic of this situation.
Another one to keep an eye on as well, though, because Brentford, in this summer that they've had where Thomas Frank has left to become the head coach at Tottenham Hotspur, their captain, Christian Norgard, has left to go to Arsenal. BRYAN MBEUMO on the verge of joining Manchester United, and all this talk about Yoane Wissa as well. They won't be sleeping. Brentford are a very sensible club, and they always seem to find a way.
They always
when players
regenerate,
leave.
don't they?
Of course they do. Exactly the right way to describe it. And they will be looking around to replace these players. So they don't have been sitting there thinking we're going to not do anything about BRYAN MBEUMO, and if it was to happen really last minute, what are they going to do replacement-wise? So they are looking at other players. Omari Hutchinson is one player that they are looking at from Ipswich. If you go back to Tuesday, they did try and sign Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich Town on Tuesday. There was a relegation clause in place at £35 million that expired at 5 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon. Now, Brentford, I'm told, did meet that £35 million relegation clause, but not at the terms that Ipswich Town wanted. So maybe Ipswich Town wanted all the money up front or in minimal instalments, whereas Brentford weren't willing to meet those certain conditions. So as a result, Ipswich Town now have the control of that situation. They can ask for what they want. They don't want to sell Omari Hutchinson. However, they are expecting Brentford to come back in with an improved offer.
And just on the Brentford thing, Dharmesh touched upon it, at how well run they are, how clever they are. They've used data before many other football clubs. They've recently sold 25% of their shares to a Hollywood film producer for £100 million. So that's not a bad injection of cash should they want to go into the window during this summer and reinvest that money in bringing new faces into the football club. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they move off the back of what's happened in the last few weeks.
Let's take it back to United briefly until we move on, Dharmesh. United already have an out-and-out number 9 in Rasmus Højlund.
Yes.
Does the manager want another one? Or a replacement?
What we should say, first of all, is the focus totally at Manchester United right now is, number one, completing the deal for BRYAN MBEUMO, and then it will move on to player exits to maybe regenerate the squad again later in the window, but they will need to fund that somehow, and that will mean selling players. And we've been speaking about the 5 players that have been told you can delay your return to the training ground while you sort out your future. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on in the show. But the number 9 situation is something that won't go away. We have been talking about it throughout this transfer window, that one of the priority positions for Manchester United was to bring in a number 9. They have explored the conditions for deals on a number of players. Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins, Sporting's Victor Gyökeres, who is clearly on his way to Arsenal now, and also Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson. I'm told another one to keep an eye on as well, which is a player that Manchester United have had a long-standing interest in, and one we tend to talk about nearly every single transfer window, not just with United but with Arsenal as well. It's Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. This is an interest that has gone back to the days when Sesko was at RB Salzburg, and I was told then, back in 2022, I think, that it was a longer-term project that Manchester United were looking at with regard to someone like Benjamin Sesko. But to reiterate again, the focus at the moment, MBEUMO in and some players out.
OK, let's...
Hello guys, Manchester United have agreed to sign BRYAN MBEUMO, and it's finally here we go. Manchester United have been trying to sign him for months. It has been a long saga, but finally the saga is over. Here we go for BRYAN MBEUMO. I'm very happy for this day. He's going to improve our team. Finally, it's here. Here we go. What do you think about this day, guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section.